Divine Grace of Bhayacharanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jayanati Lila Bhavishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Chaitra Sutara Shri Śrīmad. Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Grantaraj Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki. Gaur Premanandi. All glorious to some devotees. All glorious to some devotees. All glorious to some devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Volume 6. With Srila Prabhupada on the cover, and Ananta Vrindavan. Young boy, Ananta Vrindavan, lives in Alachua. A.V. This is Preaching to America Part 2. We read a portion of this previously, Prabhupada's arrival to Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, and answering some questions from the reporters. And Srila Prabhupada was particularly interested in the newspaper's version of his reply to the question about Indian politics. Quote, the Swami replied that Mrs. Gandhi is inclined to some spiritual understanding, and if she fully develops, the situation will improve. Democracy is not beneficial if its leaders have no spiritual values. Mahatma Gandhi was practically a dictator, but he was a man of high moral character, so people accepted him. Dictatorship can be good provided the dictator is spiritually developed. Srila Prabhupada was repeatedly being asked about Indira Gandhi. The U.S. government was critical of her newly instituted emergency rule. And particularly in Chicago, the reporters had tried to construe Prabhupada's comments about women as criticism of Prime Minister Gandhi. Both in Chicago and Dallas, Srila Prabhupada had stressed that he was not much concerned with politics, although he indicated that politics were useless without Krishna. Eager to keep good relations with the Indian government, Prabhupada did not like to speak publicly against India's leaders. He had often expressed a desire to meet with the Prime Minister to assure her of the good work the Krishna conscious movement was doing for the benefit of India and the whole world, and to request her assistance. In India, visas had always been a problem for the devotees. They had to continually leave the country and their service to renew their visas and then re-enter at great cost. Now some devotees, especially in the Mayapur area, were being asked to leave the country because of America's stance against Indira Gandhi's political actions. Recently, Prabhupada had received word from the devotees in Delhi that they were trying to arrange such a meeting. So he liked the favorable statements on Indira Gandhi in the Dallas Times-Herald, and he asked that the article be saved. While walking near White Rock Lake the morning he was to leave for New Orleans, Srila Prabhupada dropped behind the main group of devotees and said to his servant, I am not feeling well. The few sannyasis close by pressed in near him with concern. Yesterday also, he added. It is due to the heat, Srila Prabhupada? I do not know why, but now I am feeling headache and some spasm. Should we cancel the trip this morning? Srila Prabhupada didn't answer. He admitted, however, the heat may have weakened his digestion. When asked if the food was to his liking, he replied, not very all right. Constantly change of hand is not good. Brahmananda Swami suggested that another difficulty for health was the constant flying. But when he again suggested postponing the flight to New Orleans, Srila Prabhupada said, no, and continued forward. The weather, July 31st. The weather was stormy en route to New Orleans. Srila Prabhupada in the first class section with Upendra was looking out the window when the fasten your seatbelt announcement came, just 10 minutes before the scheduled landing. Suddenly, the plane dropped violently. Passengers screamed and clutched their armrests, bracing themselves. Upendra, frightened, speechless, thought, if I have to die, it's all right, because Prabhupada is here. The downward plunge stopped abruptly, but then the plane began to lurch and roll, tossed by turbulent air currents. Overhead bins snapped open and articles fell out, bouncing off passengers and onto the floor. Srila Prabhupada turned to Upendra. Why is it rocking? It's a storm, replied Upendra. He could see that Srila Prabhupada was calm. His expression was one of irritation, like over some minor incident, as when his lunch would be served late. In wind and downpour, the pilot finally touched the wheels onto the runway, landing without mishap. A sigh arose from the passengers, then cheering and clapping. Srila Prabhupada seemed unaffected. He asked Upendra how long a drive it would be to the temple. Srila Prabhupada and his party arrived at the large mansion on Esplanade Boulevard. Esplanade Boulevard. French, Esplanade. In heavy rain, Nityananda, the New Orleans temple president, having been given 2 weeks' notice of Prabhupada's visit, which was always the situation, had hurriedly repainted and readied all the buildings, both here and at the Mississippi farm. Despite a thorough search of the city's markets, however, he had been unable to find any bitter melon, which he had heard Srila Prabhupada took daily for digestion. Therefore, he had arranged for one of Prabhupada's secretaries to bring some from Dallas. Nityananda and the New Orleans devotees felt they were as ready for Prabhupada's visit as they would ever be. A wide marble staircase led up to the entrance, and Prabhupada, leaning on his cane, climbed it slowly as devotees threw flower petals down from the third floor. The entire distance from the car to the house, about 250 feet, was covered with a 3-foot wide white cloth leading up to the Vyasa. Prabhupada bowed down to the deities of Gaura Nitai, Radha Radhakant, and Lord Jagannath, sat down, but then decided it was too late in the morning to speak. Instead, he at once went to his quarters in the building next door. So we'll leave that and continue on the first paragraph of page 148. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And this is fourth verse. Dehapatya kalatradishu atmasanyeshu asatsu api tesham pramato nidanang pasyan api napashiti dehapatya kalatradishu Dehapatyakalatradishu Atmasanyesvasatvapi Teshang pramato nidanang Pashanapi napashyati. Please chant. Dehapatya kalatradishu Atmasanyesvasatvapi Tesham pramato nidanang Pashanapi napashyati. Dehapatyakalatradishu Atmasanye Svasatvapi Tesham Pramatu Nidhanang Pasyanapena Pashyati Dehapatyakalatradishu Atmasanye Svasatvapi Tesham Pramatu Nidhanang Pasyanapena Pashyati Dehapatyakalatradishu Atmasanye Svasatvapi Tesham Pramatu Nidhanang Pasyanapena Pashyati Deha, body, apatya, children, kalatra, wife, adishu, and in everything in relation to them. Atma, own, sanyeshu, fighting soldiers, asatsu, fallible, api, in spite of, tesham, of all of them, Brahmatak, too attached, Nidanang, destruction, Pashan, having been experienced, Api, although, Na, does not, Pashyati, see it. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers, like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. Purport. This material world is called the world of death. Every living being, beginning from Brahma, whose duration of life is some thousands of millions of years, down to the germs, who live for a few seconds only, is struggling for existence. Therefore, this life is a sort of fight with material nature, which poses death upon all. In the human form of life, a living being is competent enough to come to an understanding of this great struggle for existence. But being too attached to family members, society, country, etc., he wants to win over the invincible material nature by the aid of bodily strength, children, wife, relatives, etc. Although he is sufficiently experienced in the matter by dint of past experience and previous examples of his deceased predecessors, he does not see that the so-called fighting soldiers, like the children, relatives, society members, and countrymen, are all fallible in the great struggle. One should examine the fact that his father, or his father's father, has already died, and that he himself is therefore also sure to die. And similarly, his children, who are the would-be fathers of their children, will also die in due course. No one will survive in this struggle with material nature. The history of human society definitely proves it. Yet the foolish people still suggest that in the future they will be able to live perpetually with the help of material science. This poor fund of knowledge exhibited by human society is certainly misleading, and it is all due to ignoring the constitution of the living soul. This material world exists only as a dream due to our attachment to it. Otherwise, the living soul is always different from the material nature. The great ocean of material nature is tossing with the waves of time, and the so-called living conditions are something like foaming bubbles, which appear before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. Due to a lack of knowledge of self, we become victimized by the force of ignorance and thus spoil the valuable energy of human life in a vain search after permanent living conditions, which are impossible in this material world. Our friends, relatives, and so-called wives and children are not only bewildered by the outward glamour of material existence. As such, they cannot save us. Still, we think that we are safe within the orbit of family, society, or country. The whole materialistic advancement of human civilization is like the decoration of a dead body. Everyone is a dead body, flapping only for a few days, and yet all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. Shukadeva Goswami is pointing out the duty of the human being after showing the actual position of bewildered human activities. Persons who are devoid of knowledge of Atma Tattva are misguided, but those who are devotees of the Lord have perfect realization and transcendental knowledge and are not bewildered. And I forgot to mention that we're reading from Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 2nd Canto, 1st chapter, text 4, the first step in God realization. Om Jnana-Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankade Guram Yokipatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. The first step in God realization doesn't seem to be such an easy first step. Sometimes they say the first step is the most difficult because one has to have the determination. Right? The materialists say every journey begins with the first step. But due to conditioning, we're all trapped by this dream, as it's described in the purport. This whole material cosmic manifestation is perpetuated only by the fact that the living entities continue to dream, just like at night. Sometimes our sleep is interrupted and we wake up and we realize that we were dreaming. And that dream has nothing to do with our reality. It's completely different. Maybe we're not even the same person, not even in the same country, not even in the same time. But somehow or other that dream was there and we may have some attachment to it. And we think, let me go back to sleep and continue that dream. So like that, this whole material world is perpetuated by our continual desire to enjoy this false representation of actual enjoyment. Just trying to squeeze out some, what is that? Matirna Krishna Paratak Svatova Mito Bipadyeti Grihavatanam Adanta Gobir Bishatam Tamisham Puna Punas Chavata Chavananam. The whole endeavor, doesn't matter whether one is by some individual effort, by some collective effort, by some good advice or bad advice, by the fallible soldiers. Ultimately, it is all simply chewing the chew, because it has already been done. There is nothing new under the sun, right? Isn't that what they say? So the materialists have these nuggets of wisdom, but it doesn't serve their ultimate goal. And so they just use them superficially for some convenience, for a particular time or circumstance. But they don't get the essence. Nothing new under the sun means that, yes, birth, death, disease, and old age. So you haven't come to a cure after countless civilizations have come and gone, each one lasting but a few hundred or a few thousand years. Just a blink in the eye. Right? Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion years. Just think how many civilizations have come and gone. Insignificant considerations. What does Lord Brahma care for these things? Just like sometimes you see, just like Narad was giving the example of the children building sandcastles on the edge of the water. And then the water comes and it destroys the sandcastle. So like this, civilizations are coming and going, and by the waves of time, they're destroyed. And again, some child's play comes along and something is developed. And again, it's destroyed. Repeatedly chewing the chewed. Nothing under the sun new. But everyone will make that, they think that, no, we will do it this time. We will have the perpetual civilization, somehow or other. We have the greatest conception. So therefore, it will last some time. One time, when we were constructing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Samadhi, National Geographic came to do an article on the Grand Trunk Road. The Grand Trunk Road is an ancient road, also known as the Silk Road. And it traverses practically all of Asia, through Central Asia, and even into Europe. So it's one of the oldest roads, if not the oldest road. And the writer, he was their senior editor. And he had some association with Vedic literature. So he wanted to name the article, Searching for Krishna Along the Grand Trunk Road. But National Geographic would not allow it. It's too religious for them, searching for Krishna. So eventually it changed to Searching for India along the Grand Trunk Road. But he came to Vrindavan and he spent many days with us. And same thing, they took thousands of photos and not one photo came. They wouldn't publish them because they were all in Vrindavan. What do you take? The city of temples, thousands and thousands of temples and pilgrims, and they didn't want to show. They would show the Kumbh Mela in the same edition, but they wouldn't show Vrindavan. They had beautiful pictures of Prabhupada Samadhi. And so he asked, says, what would you tell people, about, this work? They could see we're making so much endeavor, so much effort. And we told him, he said, if you come back in 1,000 years, you will still see. Because these monuments, these will last. Because they will not fade from people's memories. They will be kept alive by the devotion. So therefore we see that the temple of Lord Jagannath is thousands and thousands of years old. Nobody knows whether it was by Indradyumna or this person or that person. The minimum age, even Prabhupada mentioned, we were reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a few 2,000 plus years that they can document. But according to the history there, it's a minimum of 10, 11,000 years. Minimum. So such things are there, religious endeavors based on reality. They will last. But this other fleeting attempt to try to establish some, what can you say, different way of addressing the needs of human civilization, they will not last. Because they are not addressing the real need, which is this Atma Tattva Gyan. So therefore, just like we read in Prabhupada's Lilamrita about all of these governments, it doesn't matter, Democrat, this or that, if it is not Krishna-centric, if it is not based on Krishna consciousness, then it is useless. It doesn't matter what it is. But if it is God-conscious, then there will be a chance. So therefore, the older kingdoms, they lasted some time because they were somewhat God-centered. They had some idea. But these new, what is the history of European civilization? 1,000 years. There's nothing. A Greek civilization, 1,000 years. A Roman civilization, 1,000 or less. Because they haven't directed the attention of the living entity towards the actual goal of life. They haven't satisfied the real need of human civilization. So this civilization now will not be any different unless the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, who have the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during the golden age of Kali Yuga for 10,000 years, now 9,500. Time is flying. Only 9,500 years left to make the change which will perpetuate the opportunity for those denizens. 10,000 years, can you imagine how many people can go back to Godhead in 10,000 years? So this is a very amazing opportunity. It may seem insignificant, and it may seem overwhelming, but yet, with the blessings of the Golden Avatar, everything is possible. One remembers Lord Chaitanya, impossible things become simple. And if one forgets Lord Chaitanya, simple things become impossible. So, and Prabhupada always used to address, we few members. There's not many. How many devotees that are active? When he was saying that, there was only a few thousand devotees. And so literally it was just a few members. But yet they had such an amazing impact that now there are hundreds of thousands. So just imagine, if a few thousand could make the situation favorable for hundreds of thousands. So just imagine if those hundreds of thousands could be mobilized and all of Prabhupada's books could be distributed on such a mass scale, as is going on, but into the hands of those who can actually change the course of human civilization. Otherwise, why was Prabhupada always trying to make some favorable arrangement to meet the leaders? Yes, we're distributing books like that. But if we get an opportunity to influence the leaders, then that will be a significant change. But time is running short. The term godless civilization has more meaning now than ever before. People don't want God. This attraction to Marxism and socialism and communism, this is all because people want sense gratification without consequences. They don't want God. God means I have to think of these words that create hurt, like sin. Can't use these words. It's called cancel culture. If you use a word like that, you're putting an unnecessary burden on someone. You're trying to impose your moral understanding of precept, and you can't do that. No. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagava pranitam. Nobody understands. They're all saying, no, follow the science, but they will not follow the science. The science is that we're all about to die, today or tomorrow. That is a hard science. Nobody can deny. Sometimes you have an argument with someone and you challenge them, change my mind. We're all going to die. Change my mind. Can you change my mind? So what is the solution? You're going to die, so do you have a solution? No. So then why aren't you searching out the answer to that question? You see so many people, they get cancer. Immediately they run to the hospital. They run to the doctor. Oh, I need to get this, I need to get that. You have to save me. Everyone's going to die. Why are they waiting till the last minute? Why are they waiting until they get the fourth letter? Everyone knows that story, right? One man got a boon from Lord Yamaraj, Dharmaraj. Sometimes you see the demigods, they get into these situations somehow or other. And they get taken advantage of, like Lord Shiva. Ashutosh, very easily pleased. So you please him, you get a boon. And then there was that one demon, gave him the boon, that whoever's head he touches, confirmed, whoever's head he touches, it will split into 1,000 pieces, 10,000 pieces. And so immediately he wanted to try the boon on Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva had to run away. So this, it's not nice to see the demigods in such an embarrassing light. But it's there for an example. And so Dharmaraj also gave a boon to this man that he will not die until he gets 4 letters, 4 notices. Just like you get letters from the collection agency. This is your first notice. If you don't pay us now, we're going to report you. And we're going to fine you. And then the last letter is we're taking you to court and we're seizing all your assets. We're putting a lien on your house. Okay? Then it's too late. Better to deal with it the first time. Oh, I've gotten notice. let me pay this bill. Get rid of it. All right, Chanakya says, debt, disease, fire, and flood. These things have to be taken care of. So, Yamaraj went away, but Yamaraj was a little smart. So, at the time, all of a sudden, the man found himself in the court of Yamaraj. He doesn't even know how did he get there. But obviously he died. You don't go to Yamaraj's court unless you're dead. And he said, what happened? You didn't keep your part of the bargain. You said I wouldn't die until I got my 4 letters. And so, there's a person, the secretary of Yamaraj, Chandragupta, no, Chitragupta. Chitragupta, he's the secretary. He has the book. Whatever you've done in your life, everything is there. Chitragupta just, he weighs it and then decides heaven or hell. Yeah. So there was a question. This man just demanded to see Yamaraj. Chitragupta was like, what's your problem? He said, no, I had a benediction. I'm not supposed to be here unless I got my 4 letters. So Yamaraj came and said, oh, you, I remember you. He said, what's the problem? He said, I didn't get my letters. What? You didn't get your letters? You didn't get the notice your hair was turning gray? He said, you didn't get the letter in the form of diminishing eyesight for our optician friends here? You're diminishing eyesight? You didn't get the letter about diminishing hearing? We all know that one, at least I do. You didn't get the notice about your teeth falling out of your head? So the man had to acknowledge it, yes. All those things I noticed. He says, that was your 4 letters. Welcome to hell. And Prabhupada also told us, old age means impending death. And these fallible soldiers cannot help us. They cannot help us. They simply perpetuate the dream. Why? It's just like you taking a painkiller. These family relations are just like they mitigate the pain of material suffering. Temporarily. At night, it's described that the grahastha, what do? They spend their time sleeping or enjoying sex. Why? Because they're suffering all day long. They need an outlet. And if you don't do that, and if you repress it, then the psychologist will say, you're abnormal. If you try to seek out the goal of life, then they commit you. Like in the old days, the devotees would be deprogrammed. You dare to try to escape material clutches? You dare to stop eating meat, to stop indulging in illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling? You dare to do that? No. The material culture will not allow it. They will kidnap you. They will kidnap you. All right? So Maya is continually kidnapping us every single day. She puts us in a situation and she holds us against our will. But we think it is in our interest, somehow or other. They have something called the Stockholm Syndrome. Have you ever heard the Stockholm Syndrome? People who are abducted, they begin to identify with their abductors. Right? And this psychological transformation is used to explain their compliance. Your mind doesn't want to think that I've been taken against my will. So they stop fighting mentally. They stop trying to escape, and they just accept the situation, regardless of how against their actual nature it is. So there's so many excuses. So everyone in the material world is living by Maya syndrome, not the Stockholm Syndrome. but Maya syndrome. She holds us against our will. She puts us in a prison, and the bars of the prison are made with this unbreakable chains of desire in the form of sex, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. That's why these 4 regulative principles cut the 4 pillars of sinful life and break the bonds of material existence. And Maya doesn't want you to become free. And not that she doesn't want you. It's her job to see whether you're ready to be free. Are you ready to enter into the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Maya is there to test you every step of the way. Because no one is like the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj with Lord Nrsingadev. And Prabhupada describes in the lecture that Lord Nrsingadev put his hand on Prahlad Maharaj. So either he was already pure, or by the touch of Lord Nrsingadev he became pure. In either case, he was pure, because the Lord cannot come in contact with anything impure. But he can make any impure thing pure. There's no such thing. Because everything is his energy. So there's no duality. So for us, we have the struggle to maintain purity. It is a daily endeavor. That's why we chant these 16 rounds. People think, oh, why are you doing like this? This is some brainless, mindless repetition. This is brainwashing. Prabhupada said, not brainwashing, brain cleansing. Brain cleansing. Yes, Chaita Darpana Majam, it cleans the dust off the heart, so that the real, true nature of the living entity can be revealed. And that true nature will overwhelm the material conditioning. But we have to take it seriously. We have to desire to become free. We have to maintain. We cannot succumb to the Stockholm Maya syndrome. That, okay, I'm here, what can I do? Right? They have, everyone now is making this analogy, blue pill, red pill, which was made famous in this movie. There's illusion. One can continue in the illusion, and in the illusion he can become completely happy. He has everything his heart desires, everything. But actually, that's not the reality. The reality is he's in a chair connected to a mechanical device which artificially harnesses his energy. You know, what does it say? The spirit soul, 10,000 times more brilliant than the sun. How powerful the living entity is. More powerful than any atomic power plant. Powering his body for 100 years. Only 1/10,000th the size of a tip of a hair. So in that science fiction story, all these living entities were connected to an organic grid that served the alien masters and powered their existence. It has some basis, this science fiction. And the whole thing comes down to this one point. You have to choose. In the first shloka, what is that? Jadma jasyatahan vayari tartaschate shobhyatra dharma projitakaitavocha paramo nirmartsaranam satam. You have to distinguish reality from illusion for the benefit of all living entities. You have to free them from this kaitava dharma, cheating religion. It's all cheating. And it's not just religion. We're not talking about these organized religions. They have religions now where they want to save, some fish in the sea or some minnow in a reservoir. It becomes fanaticism. They can't see their own self-interest, so they project this self-interest onto some other thing, whether it's the forest or whether it's the sea or whether it's this or that. We acknowledge these things. We're stewards as well. We don't indiscriminately create unnecessary situations. But we understand that there's a higher purpose in human life. And to save one of the other 8,400,000 species of life, first you have to save the human species. And if you save them, you water the root of the tree, then all these other species will be properly maintained. Because the Grihasthas, they know that every living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna. And he treats them as such. He doesn't disrespect them. But it is not a substitute. First, you have to be God conscious, not fish conscious. Then everything will be all right. So we have a lot of work ahead. We don't want to disturb the minds of the ignorant. You cannot tell a person who subscribes to socialism, who thinks that this is the cure for everything. You cannot. How long we fought in the Soviet Union for the freedom to worship after so much oppression and imprisonment. And now we see that the same mood is coming even to other countries, developed countries, because they're bewildered. They don't see the reality. They only see that I don't have the wealth. I need to get your wealth. We need to make this, as much as possible, we need to introduce spiritual communism. That God is the center, not the state, not some elected personality, but God. And then everyone's problems will be solved, just like the thousands, 100,000, millions of people who have taken to Krishna consciousness. They're all situated in the same material existence, but they're not worried, just like Srila Prabhupada in the plane. The plane was going to crash. It didn't matter to him whether he lived or died. It was simply an inconvenience for his preaching. That's all. So we have to have that same outlook. That whatever the situation Krishna puts us in, whether it's COVID or bubonic or this plague or that plague, the material world means continually plagued. Adhyatmic, adi bhautik, adi devik. But even devotees forget sometimes that these things are ordained. They're not under our control. You cannot hide from a germ. You can take as much precaution as you want. We should take precaution. If you go into a particular situation and you know that it's contaminated, you take precautions. We go into a dust-filled atmosphere, we put on a mask. We take precautions. But we do not stop the preaching. The bottom line is we do not stop the preaching. Then we have succumbed to some situation which has been created. We have to think that this is Maya. This is Maya. So we carefully study situations. We make adjustments according to time and circumstances, but we don't stop preaching. We have to have that faith that Krishna will protect us. Kaunteya pradijanihi name bhakti pranashiti. Otherwise, how is it? We don't want to see a situation or think that there's nothing that Krishna can't do or save us from or relieve us from or alter simply for preaching. But he has to see that we're willing to do whatever is necessary. Prabhupada said, and we all know, and I say it continuously, don't try to see Krishna. Just act in such a way that he will see you. And that is everything. That is everything. Any questions? Any questions from the online community? No questions from the Marvel universe or the DC universe or the Pokemon universe? People are so much engaged in these alternate realities. It consumes them completely. They even have a name for it, you know? They have a name for it. And they invest in it. And they continually just adopt one persona or another. Even when they go into these video games, they have avatars. You make your own avatar. So they have some insight, but it is not developed. But if we learn how to use these social situations that they're in, then perhaps we can attract them to understand that, yes, you're not this body. Just like in the video game, you're creating some alternate personality, an alter ego. But that's not you. You shut the game down, it's not you. So who are you? So we have to get them to ask this question. Who are you? Read the verse one more time. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva. We'll read the Sanskrit since this is a famous verse. Neha patya kalachadishu atmasanya svasatsapi tesham pramato nidanang pasyanapena pashyati. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers, like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi.